America, and this is my persuasive speech on childhood poverty in America. Worldwide, there are 2.2 billion children across the globe. 1 billion of these children are living in childhood poverty. Poverty can be defined as the state or condition to having little or no money, goods, or means to support yourself, or the condition of being poor. Despite President Johnson's war on poverty years ago, the issue of poverty still persists among the American people. Childhood poverty is often depicted to be some issue in a foreign country, when in reality it is affecting children right here in America, and has a vast effect on the availability of quality education or health care. It is time that we as Americans do our job to help to fight to end childhood poverty. The face of childhood poverty in America. In 2007, it was estimated that 13 million children in America were living in poverty. No other developed country in the world has as high child poverty rates as America. These children are having to choose between paying the high cost of continuing their education and getting out of poverty, or starting a job instantly with low wages that often results into a dead end. It is assumed that America is the wealthiest nation in the world. However, this wealthy nation has 1 in 4 children who come from families that are enrolled in the food stamp program. 26% of children in rural counties have relatively high poverty rates. This is comparable to 12% of children in urban communities. Trends of childhood poverty are persistent in the regions of the Appalachia, the Ozarks, the Mississippi Delta, the Texas-Mexico border, the northern Great Plains, and the Native American regions of Oklahoma. Childhood poverty is rare among the northeast and the north-central areas of the United States. The lack of resources in rural areas suggests why childhood poverty rates are high among these regions. Children who are living in poverty represent diversity now more than ever before. Children in poverty are now a part of a diverse region. For example, in East Texas, there are high poverty rates among the diversities of the Hispanic, African American, and Caucasian children. Once a prominent African American community in North Carolina is now seeing a shift of poverty affecting the Hispanic population. Overall, childhood poverty can affect all races and ethnicities across America. Children are innocent victims of childhood poverty. American families that have a head of the household under the age of 30 experience a 37% poverty rate. Oftentimes, parents have a hard time affording quality child care for their child, and thus the child at a young age is not receiving proper encouragement for their ability to learn and grow. Parenting factors such as alcohol addiction and teenage pregnancy can lead to a child experiencing poverty. Low education levels in rural areas add to high numbers of unemployment. Parents who are unable to obtain a job because of their education provide homes that are considered low income. The lower the income of the family, the less the family is able to provide for their child. Education of those living in poverty in America. Children living in poverty are not focused on education. They're focused on if they're going to go home hungry. 2.8 million children in this country are living on less than $2 a day. Approximately 17 million children in the United States are facing a food shortage. It's averaged to be about 1 in 4 children that do not have access to nutritious food in order to live a healthy life. Experiencing chronic hunger greatly affects the educational system. How can a child sit and focus on learning when they're worried if they're going to have enough food to last them through the weekend? A family's socioeconomic status can be linked to education. The higher the family's socioeconomic status, the more achievement in education for the student. The socioeconomic status can be defined as a family's income, parents' educational level, or parents' occupation, all of which are reflected upon the poverty level. A family's socioeconomic status can be greatly reflected in a student's grades, achievement test scores, curriculum placement, high school graduation, and college plans. Family resources linked to education achievement among those in poverty. Students with higher educational achievement have family resources such as their own bedroom, a quiet place to study, reading material, parents' own educational success that encourage them, and the parents' ability to be involved in school. For students living in poverty, it can be difficult to have these advantages of family resources. Parents may not be able to afford a multiple bedroom home, or have their own educational success to encourage the child, or be involved in school due to a conflicting work schedule. GED versus high school diploma for children in poverty. Oftentimes, students drop out of high school because of lack of the family involvement and support, or to join the workforce in helping to provide for their family. Dropping out of high school leads to socioeconomic disadvantages and thus can repeat the cycle of poverty. Individuals who obtain a GED are less favorable to be able to overcome things in life such as depression, physical illness, and get out of the income below the poverty level. The health and medical care of children living in poverty in America. Child hunger is high among children in poverty. Food insecurities can lead to consequences, and these consequences can reflect a child's height and weight. This can affect a child's anxieties, increased stomach and headaches, hospitalizations, and an increase to colds. Food insecurities can lead to nutrient deficiencies in vitamin A and iron. These deficiencies can be proven in delays in motor skills, cognitive defects, school performance, and the greater rates in infection and childhood mortality. Though these food insecurities are more prominent outside of the U.S., with the increase of child poverty, it is only a matter of time that the vast effects of the lack of food become a more prominent problem. Asthma rates are also high among children in poverty. Within inner city poverty, children are experiencing a more often diagnosis of asthma. And sadly, if this is not properly cared for, it can result in death. Things that trigger a child's asthma are things such as colds and infections, mold pollen, certain foods and additives, animal smoke, air pollution, wind, rain, and cold air. Parents are often encouraged to remove these barriers, but for a parent who lives in poverty, it is often hard to do so, or to provide proper medical care for their child's asthma. Attainable healthcare coverage may be out of the question. Paying for chronic health problems, medications, disability services, or overall healthcare costs may be unachievable for the population living in poverty. Yes, there are government programs for this population that help with medical care, but what happens when the families fall between the gaps and are still unable to pay for medical care costs? They are left behind. Even if a family receives medical assistance, this does not mean that they are struggling to pay their bills. For example, what happens if a single mother is a victim to poverty and has a chronically ill child? She has to quit her job in order to care for her child. Though she's having her medical bills paid for, she is struggling to pay for her household bills because she's caring for her sick child. The system has yet failed her again because she's still in poverty. How can we as Americans help? As a nation, we are spoiled. While many of our nation's stats are on childhood obesity, there is a failure among research to seek the in-depth scope of child hunger among Americans. The focus seems to be mainly on what we can do to help our child, to provide our child with a healthy eating and lifestyle habit, not on how we can achieve the prevention of malnourishment among children in poverty. To aid the efforts to help the children who are going hungry, volunteer and donate with your local food pantry. You can also donate to the backpack program through your local schools. This program sends bags of food home to children who would otherwise go hungry on the weekends. Prevent the cycle of poverty. Research shows that children who grow up in poverty almost always stay in poverty throughout their adulthood. As college students and tomorrow's futures, as doctors, lawyers, teachers, social workers, and businessmen and women, it is our responsibility to encourage these children they do not have to repeat the cycle of poverty. These dreams are achievable, and poverty can be stopped. Lobby. Become a part of your national or state legislature. Get involved and know what policies are going to affect this population. Do not like a suggested bill. Let your voice be known. Call your senators and representatives and discuss what would you like to see with this population and what would you like to see to be done to aid these children. Volunteer and donate. Volunteer to assist children in poverty. whether it be through nonprofit organizations or schools, be able to provide assistance to children in poverty because they are the innocent victims. Remember to donate. Donations create services that work to serve this population. These services may not yet be created because of the lack of government funding, but these grassroots organizations need support to help children beat poverty. Conclusion. I remind you that though children in poverty exist within our nations, it is very present among Americans. The faults in the education and healthcare systems have a great disadvantage to the children living in poverty in America. I encourage you to become involved by donating, volunteering, or lobbying to help stop childhood poverty among these innocent victims. Thank you.